When you finally go silent, you do something most men never have the courage or patience to do. You stop reacting. And that single act of restraint is what turns everything around. Silence is powerful because it forces her to sit with herself without your words to defend her actions, without your presence to soothe her ego, and without your attention to distract her from reality. When you stop reaching out, when you stop explaining, when you stop chasing, that's when the mirror appears. She begins to replay every moment, every conversation, and every decision she made that pushed you away. What she once brushed off suddenly starts to feel heavier because silence doesn't argue, it reveals. In those quiet days when you're not calling, texting, or checking in, she starts to wonder. It's not immediate, at first, she might feel confident in her choice, convinced she made the right move, but as time passes and your voice fades from her daily routine, the emotional impact of your absence begins to sink in. The silence starts to speak louder than any confrontation could. It makes her realize how much space you actually filled in her life. The comfort of knowing you were always there begins to vanish, and that emptiness becomes undeniable. Silence shifts the focus from you to her. You're no longer reacting to her emotions, she's reacting to your absence. She starts questioning herself. Why isn't he chasing me? Why isn't he trying to fix things? Did he move on? That curiosity turns into anxiety, and anxiety turns into reflection. The longer you maintain your composure, the more those thoughts multiply. The silence becomes her teacher. It reminds her of your worth, your calm strength, and the value of the connection she once overlooked. Men who understand the power of silence know it's not about punishment, it's about preservation. You're not trying to make her feel pain, you're allowing her to face her own. Every message you don't send, every phone call you don't make, and every time you resist the urge to explain yourself, you're reinforcing your boundaries and reclaiming your power. The silence becomes your ally, not your weakness. It tells her without words that you won't fight for someone who doesn't fight for you, that you've reached a point where peace means more than attention. And as time passes, that same silence she thought she could ignore becomes impossible to escape. The world moves slower without your energy in it. The stability you once provided begins to feel rare. She starts to regret not appreciating the man who gave without demanding, who stayed consistent even when things were unstable. She realizes too late that your silence wasn't emptiness, it was strength. And when that realization hits, it cuts deeper than any argument or goodbye ever could, because true regret doesn't come from losing someone's attention. It comes from realizing you lost someone who was never going to beg for your presence again. Emotional control is the true mark of strength, and in relationships, it's the difference between being respected and being forgotten. When a man learns to control his emotions instead of reacting to them, he instantly separates himself from the crowd. Most men lose their power the moment they start begging for answers, seeking validation, or trying to fix something that isn't theirs to fix. But when you master silence and hold emotional control, you create an energy that commands attention without ever asking for it. You no longer move based on how she feels about you. You move based on how you feel about yourself. That shift changes everything. When a woman senses that you are emotionally stable, it makes her feel something rare in today's world: security. It's not the loud, aggressive kind of dominance, it's the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am and I'm not going to lose myself trying to keep you. That energy draws respect naturally because it shows that you're not afraid of loss. Most people are terrified of being alone and they act out of fear. But when you control your emotions, silence becomes effortless because you're no longer trying to prove your worth. You already know it. And that calm certainty unsettles her because it's unfamiliar. She's used to men who chase, who fold, who beg for closure. But your composure creates a contrast she can't forget. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you strengthen your inner discipline. Every time you hold back from reacting to her mixed signals, you build your emotional muscle. Emotional control doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop letting those feelings control you. You can still love deeply, care genuinely, and want her back, but you don't let that desire dictate your behavior. You understand that your peace is more important than proving a point. This is the mindset that makes silence so powerful because your actions come from a place of control, not chaos. The truth is, the more emotionally calm you become, the more magnetic you appear. A woman begins to wonder what's different about you. Why aren't you chasing her like everyone else? Why aren't you breaking down or pleading for another chance? That confusion becomes curiosity, and curiosity always leads to reflection. She begins to realize that you're not like the others. You're not reacting because you're not desperate. You're calm because you understand your own value. And that energy starts to draw her back, not because you manipulated her, but because emotional control is deeply attractive. It communicates strength, patience, and maturity. In the end, emotional control gives you peace, and peace is what every strong man guards above all else. The more you master yourself, the less her actions can shake you. And ironically, it's that unshakable calmness that makes her realize exactly what she lost, a man who loved her, but who didn't need her to stay grounded. When you finally pull away and let silence take over, something powerful begins to happen. You start to see your true value, and so does she. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was because when you stop showing up, she starts to feel the void you used to fill. Every text you don't send, every call you don't make, and every moment you don't respond to her mixed energy becomes a quiet reminder of what she lost. Silence has a way of amplifying your worth because it strips away all the noise, all the words, and all the explanations, leaving only one truth. Your value is undeniable when you're no longer available. At first, she might act like it doesn't bother her. She may post, laugh, or pretend she's fine. But deep down, the emotional comfort she once had begins to fade. You were the one who gave her stability, attention, and reassurance. When that's suddenly gone, she starts to notice how empty things feel. The silence becomes uncomfortable because it forces her to remember what she once took for granted. It's not that she misses your voice at first. She misses how your presence made her feel safe, desired, understood, and as time passes, that feeling becomes harder to replace. Silence highlights your value because it reminds her of the contrast between what you gave and what she now has. She begins to compare every new interaction to you, and no matter how much she tries to distract herself, that emotional gap only widens. When a man is silent, it gives her the space to evaluate what she truly lost. Most people only realize the depth of someone's impact when they experience the silence left behind. Your absence becomes her wake up call. And it's not just about her missing you, it's about her realizing how much better her world felt when you were in it. The longer you stay silent, the more she begins to wonder if you've truly moved on. That uncertainty triggers something deep inside her. She starts questioning whether you still think about her or if she's just a memory now. The moment a woman begins to imagine you detached, focused, and at peace without her, regret slowly begins to grow. It's no longer about the breakup or the argument. It's about losing the emotional anchor she didn't know she depended on. Silence turns your absence into presence. It makes her realize that your energy, your calm, and your leadership were not replaceable. In the end, the quiet distance you create becomes the space where she finally learns your worth. Silence is not about ignoring her, it's about giving her the opportunity to understand who you really were when she was too distracted to see it. And when that realization finally hits, it's not your voice she'll hear, it's the echo of your silence reminding her what she lost when she stopped valuing your presence. When you choose silence, you break the cycle of chasing, convincing, and constantly proving your worth. It's a shift that takes discipline and inner strength, but it's the exact shift that turns everything around. Most men get stuck in the trap of trying to win her back through effort, constant messages, over explaining, and emotional pleas. But every time you chase, you teach her that she doesn't have to value you because you'll always be there regardless of how she treats you. Silence changes that completely. It tells her through your actions that your attention must be earned, not demanded. That's when she starts to feel the weight of your absence. When you stop trying to fix what she broke, she's left with her own reflection. She starts realizing that your energy was never hers to control, it was a privilege she was given. By refusing to engage, you show her that your love isn't unconditional when respect is missing. Silence becomes your boundary, a calm but firm reminder that your presence isn't guaranteed. You're no longer reacting to her mood swings, her games, or her mixed signals. Instead, you're operating from a place of self respect, and that self respect speaks louder than anything you could ever say. This is where the dynamic begins to shift. She used to be the one setting the rhythm, deciding when to talk, when to pull away, and when to come back. But when you stay silent, the rhythm stops. The control she once had disappears because you've stopped playing the game. You're not cold or bitter. You're simply focused on yourself, on your peace, and on the things you can control. The moment she feels that she can't get an emotional reaction from you anymore, her curiosity turns into concern. She starts wondering why you've stopped chasing, why you no longer seem affected, why you've gone silent when she expected chaos. The truth is, silence teaches her something that words never could, that you are capable of walking away from anything that costs you your peace. When she senses that, she begins to feel regret. It's not just about losing you, it's about losing the power she once had over your emotions. The calm you display confuses her because she expects anger or pain, but instead, she finds indifference, and that's the one thing she can't handle. It forces her to reflect on the moments when she could have chosen you but didn't. The silence becomes the reminder of every missed opportunity, every unspoken apology, and every ignored effort. When you stop chasing validation, you gain respect. When you stop proving your worth, she begins to see it. Silence isn't revenge, it's alignment. It's you deciding that your energy is no longer up for negotiation. And once she realizes she can no longer control or predict you, that's when the regret begins. And that's when the silence starts to speak louder than anything you could have ever said. Silence doesn't just give her time to miss you, it gives you the space to rebuild yourself. When you stop focusing on what she's doing, who she's talking to, or whether she'll come back, you begin redirecting all that energy towards something far more valuable, your own growth. This is the stage where silence transforms from a reaction into a lifestyle. You stop trying to get her attention and start working on becoming the kind of man who doesn't need it. It's in this period of quiet rebuilding that everything begins to shift. You hit the gym not because you want her to notice, but because you want to feel powerful again. You focus on your purpose, your goals, your career, your circle, and each small win begins to remind you of your worth. When a man truly embraces silence, he doesn't sit around waiting for her to call. He gets busy building the version of himself he lost while trying to please her. That's the part most men overlook. Silence isn't about proving a point, it's about rediscovering who you are without the constant noise of needing someone's approval. The more you pour into yourself, the less her opinion defines you. The longer you stay focused on your path, the more magnetic you become because women are drawn to men who move with purpose. That independence, that quiet drive, it speaks louder than any words you could ever say. As you rebuild, she begins to notice the change even from a distance. The energy you once gave her is now fueling your life. She can sense it. Maybe she sees a photo of you smiling. Maybe she hears about your new achievements. Or maybe she just feels the shift in your silence. Suddenly, you're not the same man who used to chase or overthink every interaction. You've become centered, composed, and unbothered. That version of you, the man who found strength in solitude, is impossible to ignore. The same silence that once made her feel in control now makes her question her choices. Growth during silence is the most attractive kind of revenge because it's not about her, it's about evolution. It's about realizing that the breakup or distance was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to wake you up. Every moment of silence is a chance to reset, to rebuild your confidence, to realign with your purpose. And when she finally looks back and sees that you didn't crumble, that you didn't beg, that you used the time to level up, regret becomes inevitable because she'll understand that while she was figuring out her emotions, you were building a new life, a life that no longer revolves around her approval. The silence that once hurt becomes the very thing that heals you. You become stronger, calmer, more focused, and less attached to the past. And when she realizes that you found peace without her, that's when she'll feel the full weight of what she lost. The longer you stay silent, the more the power dynamic shifts completely. What once felt like her advantage slowly turns into your quiet strength. In the beginning, silence feels heavy. It feels like absence, like a void that might never be filled. But as time goes on, that silence becomes your armor. You begin to understand that the person who can walk away without begging for closure or chasing for answers is the one who truly holds control. The silence you maintain begins to speak volumes, not only to her but to yourself. You start realizing you no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need validation to feel whole. You begin to live from a place of peace, not pressure. At first, she might interpret your silence as indifference, maybe even arrogance. But as days turn into weeks and you remain grounded, she starts to feel something unfamiliar, uncertainty. That's when the regret begins to take root. She starts wondering why you haven't reached out, why you're not trying to fix things, why you're not fighting for her like before. That confusion creates emotional discomfort, and in that discomfort, she starts to reflect. Every memory, every moment of affection, every conversation begins to replay in her mind. She starts to realize that maybe she overreacted, maybe she misjudged your calmness, maybe she let go of something solid while chasing something temporary. As silence continues, the shift deepens. You're no longer the one who's emotionally vulnerable. She is. The curiosity that starts as a question becomes a growing need. She begins to check your profile, look for signs that you still care, or ask mutual friends what you've been up to. The longer you maintain your composure, the stronger her urge becomes to break the silence herself. The power dynamic flips because silence makes her realize something that words never could. You are not dependent on her for peace or purpose. That realization is unsettling for her, but liberating for you. You begin to see how much control you gain by not reacting. You start to value your energy more and understand that not everyone deserves access to it. Silence becomes more than just space, it becomes your standard. You don't use it to punish, you use it to protect your peace. And as you continue to grow, she starts to see a version of you she didn't expect, the calm, focused, emotionally stable man who no longer needs her to feel validated. That version of you is powerful, and that power draws her back, not out of pity or nostalgia, but out of respect and regret. In the end, the silence that once felt like distance becomes the bridge that brought everything full circle. You didn't manipulate her emotions, you mastered yours. And that mastery is what makes her return, not because she has to, but because she finally sees what she lost when you stopped chasing and started leading with silence.